Rasulullah. Dear respected brothers and sisters, it's an honor to be among you here today. It's an honor to talk in Sheikh Ahmed Didat's foundation, IPCI. He was always an example for all dua all over the world. We learned a lot from him, even though most of us didn't have the chance to see him in person, but his books and his tapes were always an excellent resource for all of us. My name is Fadel Soliman. I am an engineer, Egyptian. I worked as an engineer for about 1.5 years alone, only. And then I learned marketing. I took marketing studies in the US and in Egypt. And I worked for about 15 years as a marketer, marketing IT. And as a knowledge seeker who learned also under great scholars like Sheikh and others, I used to work and volunteer in da'wah with the Muslim organizations in the United States. So I used to teach Quran in Islamic schools. I used to volunteer with some organizations representing them in the United Nations. So I was representing WAMI, World Assembly of Muslim Youth, in the conference held for NGOs every year on the 10th, 11th, and 12th of September. This is my story. On the 11th of September, I was at the United Nations in Manhattan, New York. So you can consider me a survivor of the 9/11 attacks. Since that day, I changed my career and I started dedicating myself to da'wah, which is actually marketing also, but marketing the Islamic concepts and Islamic beliefs among people. About 2.5 years ago, I left the States and I went back with my family to live in Egypt. And there we founded Bridges Foundation with Dr. Jamal Badawi, Dr. Murad Hoffman, and others, and you will see this. Our logo speaks for itself. 5 people holding hands, standing on a curved line, which represents planet Earth. The color of the heads of those people represents the continents from which they are coming from. So those are the 5 colors of the 5 Olympic circles. Our aim is to bridge people through through education. Bridging people through education, which means that we only accept taking part in serious events when we will be giving a talk about Islam and taking questions from people and answering them. But there are other events where people meet and sing together in the church and eat cookies, and we just apologize from attending these events because we don't think it is making any sense or there is any use of it. People should talk, should communicate, should address their similarities and differences at the same time. In Bridges Foundation, we have 2 main divisions. The first one is PPP, Public Presenters for Peace, and the other one is IITP. Can I have some water? Water?
Plain water or juice?
Water, just plain water. Yes. Public Presenters for Peace is a group of presenters, dua, who are giving presentations on Islam all over the world. And I'll show you some clips from these presentations. And IITP is the International Institute for Training Presenters and Public Speakers, training Muslims on how to give da'wah to non-Muslims. These 3 people are the Board of Trustees of Bridges this year. Dr. Jamal Badawi, and Dr. Murad Hoffman. They are among the founders, so they have been trustees for the past 2.5 years. And Dr. Zaghlul Najjar. Who of you knows Dr. Zaghlul Najjar? Okay, Dr. Zaghlul Najjar is the most renowned scholar in the area of scientific miracles of the Quran. Very known in the Arab world. He is a scientist. We give people presentations on Islam. This is one of them. It's called Islam in Brief. In this presentation, we talk about the meaning of the word Islam, the 6 beliefs of Muslims, and the 5 pillars of Islam. And in this presentation, we deal with misconceptions on Islam. Positively, we don't mention the negative, we don't mention the misconception, but we deal with it positively, trying to prove to people the truth and trying to clarify things for them. For example, you know that one of the misconceptions on Islam is Allah. They say that Allah is a special God, Jazakallah khair. He's a special God for Muslims. He is cubical shaped. He exists in Mecca, and they dress in a black cloth. So we tell them, no, Allah is the creator of this universe. Whoever worships the creator, he's worshipping Allah. Allah is an Arabic word that means the one true God. So even Arab Christians and Arab Jews say Allah as well. And this is shocking for them. What? Are you telling me that my fellow Christians are worshipping Allah? So we show them. We tell them, let's play a small game. I know that you don't know Arabic. This is the word Allah in Arabic. And this is the Arabic Christian Bible, the first page of the Arabic Christian Bible. Here, this word is at-Taqween, which means Genesis. So this is the first paragraph. Can you tell me how many times the word Allah exists here in the first paragraph? And then count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then when we say there is no God except Allah, this shouldn't be offensive for anyone. This unites us. And that's what Allah told us in the Quran. Tell them, إِلَهُنَا وَإِلَهُكُمْ وَاحِدٌ. Our Lord and your Lord is one. And then after establishing the differences, we then start tackling after establishing the common grounds, we then start tackling the differences. So after we prove to them that our Lord and their Lord is one, we tell them, but Muslims believe that Allah is unique. But you have always to establish common grounds. قُلْ يَا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ تَعَالَوْا إِلَى كَلِمَةٍ سَوَاءٍ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكُمْ أَلَّا نَعْبُدَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Say, O people of the book, let us come to common terms as between us and you. So always establish common grounds first. We talk about Prophet Muhammad. Actually, the way we present Islam to them is a very simple way. We tell them Islam is not a new religion that came to compete with any other religion. Islam is the religion, not of Muhammad or Jesus or Moses, but of Allah, of God, that He communicated to the humankind through Muhammad, and once before him through Jesus, once before him through Moses. So we tell them, if you believe that there is one God and there is one humankind, because there is no difference between us, whites are not better than the blacks, Arabs are not better than Indians, men are not better than women, then there is one sender and one recipient. Then there is one message between the one sender and the one recipient, but the same message was sent through ages with different messengers. So we simplify things for them. And then we speak to them about the concept of prophethood, and in the concept of prophethood we speak about also Jesus, and then we speak about Prophet Muhammad, some things from his biography, what the great maybe thinkers in the West said about him, like this one, Lamartine, who is a famous historian. He authored his book L'Histoire de la Turquie. He said that the greatness, if greatness of purpose, smallness of means, and outstanding results are the 3 criteria of a human genius, who could dare to compare any great man in modern history with Muhammad? And this man, Mahatma Gandhi, who is a very important man because he is actually the one who innovated the ways of peaceful resistance. And of course the West want us to be like Gandhi. They want us to resist them, but peacefully. So we show them what this man said about Prophet Muhammad. I became more than convinced that it was not the sword that won a place for Islam in those days in the scheme of life. because the rigid simplicity, the utter self-effacement of the Prophet, the scrupulous regard for his pledges, his intense devotion to his friends and followers, his intrepidity, his fearlessness, his absolute trust in God and in his own mission. We show them some of the scientific miracles of the Quran, few of it. We don't get in depth in these issues. We just use the simple ones that needs no argument. I just show them the things that I don't need a scientific proof with me. Things about maybe this بَلَا قَادِرِينَ عَلَىٰ أَن نُسَوِّيَ بَنَانَهُ. Yes, we are able to fashion in perfect order the very tips of his fingers, speaking about the fingerprints. Or, for example, the ayah that says, whoever Allah guides, he opens his heart for Islam, and whoever he lets go astray, he makes his chest constrain, as if he is ascending gradually in the sky. Oxygen decreases. People suffer from chest tightness. And then I tell them, Prophet Muhammad was not an astronaut, nor any of his companions. And so on. So we use the simple ones that need no argument with us. Because I always tell Muslims, there are three types of scientific miracles. Scientific miracles because they are scientific miracles, and scientific miracles because some Muslims want them to be scientific miracles. And there is the kind of scientific miracles that you need to have with you references and books to prove them from science, which is also, but this is something that is not easy for me to carry with me always in a presentation. And then we speak to them also about some of the how religion and science are associated in Islam, and how Islam motivates scientists and motivates people to innovate and to discover. Because they always tell you that when we separated church from state, we developed. And I agree with them. Had they not separated church from state, they could have not been able to write their names now. But when we talk about religion, let's talk about which religion. And then we speak to them about some of the, of course, differences and concerns that are concerning them. Of course, in the West, there are a lot of concerns about Islam. And of course, one of the biggest concerns about Islam is the status of Muslim women now. And of course, about Muslim women, number one concern is hijab. They see the sisters as aliens coming from outer space. So here, that's what we tell also the Muslims in the workshops. Don't be apologetic, because your religion doesn't need an endorsement from anyone. Our religion in the intellectual field attacks, doesn't defend itself. Here I ask them, have you ever seen Muslim women wearing hijab before? All of them raise their hands. I say, thank you. Honestly, did you ever wonder why are they wearing like that? 90% raise their hands. Of course we wonder. They look so strange. I say, okay, do you know who is she? So they say, Mary. I say, yes, Christians believe that this is the picture of Virgin Mary. And this one? We say, Mother Teresa. I say, can you give me a name of a nun that is better than this nun in the whole Christian history? No, probably this is the best one. This is a Nobel Prize winner. She founded a lot of organizations, feeding hundreds of thousands of the poor every day. So can we say that those two people are the best two women in the eyes of Christians today? Yes. And this is my sister. Now the quiz that I have for you today, what is common in the three of them? So they say hijab. They say they are totally covered except face and hands. So I say, excuse me, a minute ago you were telling me that you were wondering why Muslim women are wearing like that, and now you are also telling me that they are wearing the best of Christian women. I think the question should be why you are not wearing like that.
Yes.
And of course, when you say something like that, you do it with a smile.
Yes.
The question should be why you are not wearing like that. So not to offend them, but it makes sense now. This shows that we need not to stereotype each other. Sometimes you can have questions about people who have the same question about you. And it makes sense that they have the same question about you. And let me tell you something, and maybe as dua you know this. Always after a presentation about Islam, you should have a question about hijab. I never got a question about hijab. 40,000 people, 40,000 non-Muslims until now took these presentations in churches, universities, all over the world. We never got one question about hijab. Why? Because the issue was killed. Using analogy, using visual means, it was killed. And it happened to me even 2 times that I had non-Muslim women wearing hijab without taking shahada. And I was stuck here. I didn't know what to do. A British and an American. And the American came to us one day. I just saw a sister coming wearing a proper hijab, telling me, I need to take shahada. I said, what? Aren't you Muslim? I said, no. Don't you remember me? 3 months ago, you came to our church. And since that day, I'm wearing like that. And every time I go to the church, she's a very practicing Catholic. She's from Colombia. A Latino who lives in the States. And every time I go to the church, they tell me, why are you wearing like that? Since those people came to this church and they destroyed your mind? They destroyed your brain? This is how Muslim women are wearing. So she says, and she is probably a Muslim. And she points at the statue that they have. Not one Christian in the world saw Mary with his own eyes. But when they depicted her, they didn't depict her in tight jeans.
No.
They didn't depict her in short skirts.
No.
They depict her like that. And when I tell them, why did you depict her like that? Why not in jeans? They say, out of respect. Thank you. That's all we need from you. We talk to them about jihad. Of course, you know the word jihad scares people. Makes people panic. I remember 2 years ago, I was in Frankfurt giving my presentations in the International Book Fair of Frankfurt, which is the biggest book fair in the world. And every day at 7 p.m., when the book fair closes, tens of thousands of people are coming out at the same time, so it's very crowded. So you cannot find a place in a metro easily. So you may wait for 3 or 4 metros to come in order just to find a place to step in. And I was waiting, and it's very disappointing. And there was this German journalist waiting beside me on the train station, and he said, would you like to find a place in the next metro? I said, sure. He said, would you like me to tell you a secret? I said, please, because he's German, and we're in Germany, so he knows the secrets of his country. I said, maybe he will tell me, let's go and walk to a further station and take the metro from there, something like that. He said, when the train comes and the door is open, shout loudly saying, Allahu Akbar. You will find a place on the metro. And the Quran tells us that when we are harassed by an ignorant harasser, we just ignore him. We say peace. So he said peace. And he said, would you like me to tell you another secret? I said, yes. He said, if you want to be alone on the next metro, when the door is open, shout loudly saying, jihad. You will be alone on that metro. Of course, I am a Muslim, but I'm also Egyptian. So I said, young man, would you like me to tell you a secret? And you should see how his face turned very serious. Because probably as Muslims, we have different secrets. Yani, we probably receive a daily email with the schedule of the trains that we are going to blow up every day or something. He said, what? I said, all Muslims in the world love this word so much. Jihad. He said, what? I thought only 15%. I said, no. All the Muslims in the world love this word so much because that's what they learn. That 15% of Muslims are crazy, are fanatics. No. We love it so much. We even use it to name our children, even girls. Here in this country, you can find a 3-year-old girl with blonde hair, blue eyes, and you ask her, what's your name, honey? She tells you, my name is Jihad, uncle. Come, learn how about jihad. So we explain jihad linguistically, which means striving and struggling, and Islamically. And Islamically, you know, there are actually two schools here. A school that likes to beautify the religion a little bit, and a school that just explains the religion as it is. We are the second school. We explain it as it is. We don't beautify Islam because Islam doesn't need to be beautified. It is beautiful already. So there's a school that says jihad is jihad al-nafs, and that's it. But we never say so. We say jihad has three main meanings. Number one, jihad al-nafs. Non-violence, struggling within oneself for a life of virtue. You struggle against your ego to be a better person. It's not easy to wake up early in the morning at 4:30 and wash your feet, hands, and face while people are in bed. And it's not easy to spend in charity without showing off. To do something secretly between you and Allah, that's not easy. And the second one is saying the truth, even if it's against your own interest. In some countries, when people say the truth, they find themselves in jail. What does Islam say here? Still say the truth. Even if it costs you your life. Why? Because the next generations will benefit from this. And you will die one day. Die today with dignity instead of getting ran over by a car. So, still say the truth, even if it's against your own interests. This is jihad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about the Quran, وَجَاهِدْهُمْ بِهِ جِهَادًا كَبِيرًا. And use the Quran in your jihad. How do I use the Quran in my jihad? By saying the truth. And the third meaning is fighting to establish justice, which is a supreme goal, not only in Islamic teachings, in every civilization. When people lose their rights, their freedom, their country, their land, fight to regain back your land. What's strange in this? And there were those people, some people from the French government came consulting us with some issues, and I wanted to explain this. I said, do you remember when the Nazis took over your country? They said, yes. I said, what did you do? They said, la résistance. Resistance. I said, okay, this is jihad. And this is the verse that they used to fight, to attack Islam. Those people have fight in the cause of Allah. They should have love for the cause of Allah. Okay, well, read the verse properly. It says, fight for the cause of Allah those who fight you. And even when we go to the battlefield to establish justice, we still do not transgress the limits because Allah said, and do not transgress the limits. وَلَا تَعْتَدُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُعْتَدِينَ. So do not transgress the limits, for Allah does not love transgressors. What are those limits? Stated by Prophet Muhammad in his combat orders. Because Prophet Muhammad have set the code for warriors. He said, number one, never kill innocent people. Which means that what happened on 9/11 cannot be justified in Islam. And what happened on 7/7 cannot be justified in Islam. As dua. You are sure 100% that you will receive this question about 9/11 after your presentation, right? Right? So why wait? Why wait till you receive the question and then you become defensive, apologetic? And the audience will say, what else will he say? Of course, he or she will say so. But here, you take the initiative in your lecture and say, then what happened on 9/11 cannot be justified in Islam. You are not apologetic, you are not defensive, and even if a silly person among the audience threw this question on you at the end of the presentation, you will be defended by the rest of the audience. Non-Muslim will hush him, shh, hush, sit down. Were you sleeping or what? He already spoke about this.
Right.
See? And one more thing also, I always like to tell to the youth, if you believe, because some Muslims believe that what happened on 9/11 can be justified in Islam. If you are one among those people who believe that this can be justified in Islam, you cannot present Islam. Balance is very important. Yes, we have an ayah in the Quran that says, punish them exactly as they punished you. And they killed our civilians. And that's the argument that is told to us by the brothers who believe that. They killed our civilians. And the Quran says, punish them exactly as they punished you.
So I say, they didn't only kill our civilians, they also raped our women in Bosnia. Why don't you rape their women? They say, no, we don't do that. Why not? Don't you think that the ayah is general? The ayah is not general. This ayah equals the ayah which is an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, which exists in the Quran and in the Old Testament, which actually is limiting the violence now. It's not an ayah that, because the Christians said, this verse we are dropping it, now we take the concept of forgiveness of Jesus. No! This verse is not encouraging violence, it is limiting the violence down. It means don't blow up 2 eyes for someone who blew up 1 eye for you. Don't destroy 32 teeth for someone who destroyed 1 tooth for you. But still, in the frame of Sharia, we do not kill innocent people and we do not rape women. Even if they do that, because if we do that, we become like them, and we are not like them. And we will never accept to be like them. And we have, one of the things here that I do when I speak to Muslims and non-Muslims, I say, I take questions at the end of my presentation, but the only thing that you can interrupt me is when you tell me what is your evidence from Quran or Sunnah. Because in Islam, I am not allowed to speak out of my own inspirations. I am not allowed to innovate. No, inspirations are not a source in Islam. In Islam, Quran and Sunnah. And we have evidences on this. Don't kill innocent people, don't kill civilians. In the Sunnah, in Hadith Yawm al-Raji', when some people claimed, a tribe, claimed to be Muslim, and then they went with the camels of the Sadaqah, and they killed the guards, and they killed the scholars, and they stole the camels. 2 of them were really ill in Medina. So the Sahaba went and wanted to punish those 2 people. The Prophet didn't allow it. Even though the Prophet was so sad and so angry for the scholars who died. But still he didn't allow killing civilians. Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi, when he besieged Jerusalem, returning it back to the Muslim world after 90 years of occupation, in the negotiation against the Crusaders, he told the Crusader, why aren't you surrendering the city? What are you waiting for? The Crusader said, and you will kill us all. He said, no, I will not kill you. If you surrender, I won't kill you. He said, come on. With all what we did 90 years before, when we took over Jerusalem, we killed every person. 70,000 civilians were killed. Muslims and Jews. Men, women, children, all were killed. And the blood was up to the knees. You're telling me that you will not kill us? He said, because I am not like you, I am Salah ad-Din. This is in the movie, Kingdom of Heaven. But historically, he didn't say, I'm Salah ad-Din. He said, Ana Abdullah. I am not like you, I am the servant of Allah. We don't do that. And this is the problem now. We shouldn't be reactive, we shouldn't act like them. So killing innocent people is not allowed. Never torture prisoners of war. When I tell them, since we are allowed to go to war, to regain back our rights, and to establish justice, then probably we will be having prisoners of war. When we take prisoners of war, we don't make them stand like that with black bags over their heads. We don't make them lie naked over each other. We don't use dogs or electricity to torture them. We don't do that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about prisoners of war, وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا. Those people who are qualified to go to paradise, they are kind to the poor, to the needy, and to the POW, to the prisoner of war. It's not easy to be kind to a prisoner of war, someone who came to kill me and my children and my wife. And now you're telling me to be nice and kind to him? Yes, this is if you want to go to paradise. This is jihad al-nafs. We have a prophetic way for torturing prisoners of war. How did the Prophet ﷺ used to torture his prisoners of war? He used to jail them in the mosque. And every time the Muslims come in to pray, 5 times every day, they bring them sweets and dates and milk. And that was enough torture for them. Those were never seen in a battle after that against Muslims. This is the prophetic way. And this is how we should present our message to them. We should show them the difference. Never kill animals, never destroy crops, never destroy infrastructures. Of course, Prophet Muhammad never said infrastructure, but he said don't poison the wells. And poisoning the well is a destruction for the infrastructure of a country. Never mutilate bodies of enemies, dead or alive. All prisoners should be given fair treatment, and women, children, and the elderly should be protected from any harm, and always bury all dead with respect. And that was 1400 years before the Geneva Convention. I tell them, I challenge you. Go to www.un.org, the website of the United Nations, and download the Geneva Convention. If you find anything more than this, I'll give each one of you $100. I challenged them. They cannot. And then we were invited for the second time to talk in the same places, same churches, same universities, talking to the same congregations. So we had to develop something new. So we developed this presentation called Islam, is it a religion of peace or a religion of war? It's a presentation that the presenter in 45 minutes can prove that Islam is a religion of peace and war exists in Islam as an exception only. What do you think about the book? And that's why, if any of you heard Cape Talk, they attacked hard. They had an interview with me, and they said that Islam is, of course, a religion of war. I said, what do you think about a book that has a chapter that is called The Manifest Victory, Al-Fath, the Great Victory? And it starts like that. Surely we have granted you a manifest victory. And in which battle was this victory? It was a peace treaty called Al-Hudaybiyah Treaty. What do you think about a book that calls a peace treaty a manifest victory? Is it promoting peace or war? So the woman, the interviewer called Kate something, Simon, she just went silent. I said, no, you tell me now. What do you think about a book that calls a peace treaty?
Peace victory.
Yes, is a manifest victory. Is it promoting peace or war? And here I insist that she tells me, because for a long time they got used attacking Islam with their tongues. It's very difficult on them to say. So she said, well, sounds like it's a book that's promoting peace. Sounds like that. Okay, what do you think about a religion that teaches its followers that the best names, the most beautiful names are the Asma Allah al-Husna, the beautiful names of Allah. Among them is As-Salam, the peace. And at the same time, the religion teaches us, Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said in the Sunnah, that the worst two names are war and bitter. Harb wa murra. Never use them to name your children. Bad names. What do you think about a religion that teaches its followers that the best name is peace and the worst name is war? Is it a religion teaching peace or war? And they go silent. So I repeat the question. No, you tell me. Is it a religion of peace or war? Because they are not used to tell something good about Islam. And we need to tell them, change. In this presentation, actually, you know that the word jihad equals terrorism for them. I prove from the Quran and Sunnah that jihad doesn't equal terrorism, but rather war on terrorism. You know, you want to know how you prove this? I asked them, what is the difference between violence and terrorism? Violence and terrorism. Can we say that violence is what two enemies are practicing against each other directly, while terrorism is violence practiced against the weak, the civilians, the unarmed people, to put pressure on the enemy indirectly? So of course they like this one. Yes, this is terrorism. Terrorism is violence against the weak. Okay, we have an ayah that says, وَمَا لَكُمْ لَا تُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَالْمُسْتَضْعَفِينَ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ وَالنِّسَاءِ وَالْوِلْدَانِ. And what is wrong with you that you fight not for the cause of Allah and for those who are weak, ill-treated, and oppressed among men, women, and children? What did we say the weak are suffering from? Terrorism. Then jihad is war on terrorism, but not the American way, the Muslim way. This is how we present to them our religion. In this presentation, we prove that Islam came calling to one cooperating human community. And we prove to them that Islam is a universal religion. Still they think that Islam is the religion of the Arabs or the Indians. No, it is a universal religion. Islam came to liberate people, to break their chains. It came liberating them from the tyranny of other human beings. Islam came with equality and brotherhood between all people. And it came spreading justice to all people and to establish world peace and with tolerance to people from other faiths. As you see, of course, we have we have designers working for us in bridges, full-time, doing nothing but enhancing and designing like that, because when we do a presentation, they should say, wow. Right? Islam should be presented in the best of manner. And then, of course, one of the big misconceptions on Islam, and that's what also was told to me in Cape Talk. This interviewer told me, I think you cannot argue that the Sharia violates a lot of human rights. I said, why do you say I cannot argue? I have no problem that you are saying that the Sharia cannot violate, is violating human rights, because this is your own opinion. You have the right to have this opinion. But why are you assuming that I cannot argue this? I have a whole presentation called Quran, the Discovery of Freedom. This presentation is actually a comparison between the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights that was issued by the General Assembly of the United Nations in the year 1948 and the Quran as a declaration of human rights that was declared 1400 years before it. And we put them both together like that. And we show them all the human rights in the United Nations, in all the 30 articles, where do they exist in the Quran? And then we show them few human rights in the Quran that do not exist in the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. And we leave our audience with one unanswered question. Ask yourself, why the old is more comprehensive than the new this time? Shouldn't be more comprehensive. It's old. It's not 50 years old, it's 1,400 years older, and still it's more comprehensive. Why? Ask yourself. This is divine. And whatever is divine is perfect, because the divine is perfect. And this one, the UN Declaration of Human Rights, is human. Whatever is human is imperfect, even if it's beautiful, but imperfect. This is how we deal with it. We show them the human right, what does it exist in the United Nations Declaration, and then what we have in the Quran, and so on. Human right, what do they have in the United Nations, what we have in the Quran, and so on. And then we have a presentation called Women in Islam Between Equity and Liberation. It's proving that women are equal with men on the spiritual aspect, social aspect, legal and political aspect. Those are some of our presenters, certified presenters on Islam. We have about 10 certified presenters now. This is Imam Ahmed Saad. He is the Imam of Finsbury Park Mosque in London now. Finsbury Park Mosque, for those who don't know, it was the mosque where Abu Hamza al-Masri used to give his khutbahs. Do you know Abu Hamza? This man caused a lot of damage. This man now was the executive manager of Bridges Foundation. So now he is the Imam of this mosque. And those are also some sisters. This one gives presentations in German and English. This one gives in French and English. That was me actually speaking in a rally, a demonstration in front of Jylland Posten in Denmark. And I'll come now to you and tell you how Bridges had a big part in, or big role in solving the Danish cartoon problem. We spoke to more than 40,000 people now. We have about 30,000 evaluations, because not everyone leaves you an evaluation form. Studying those evaluations, we found that 92% of the people change their position from Islam to a better position, whether becoming more neutral or even supporters of Islam and Muslims. 7.5% they remain as negative as they were always. And about 0.5% take Shahada or become Muslim. These are some congregations in Texas. That's an organization that is founded by Rosalynn Carter, the wife of Jimmy Carter, the former president of the United States, headed now by Chip Carter, their son. We used to like put tents like that in Freedom Plaza in Washington DC and post an advertising in the newspaper, and people come every hour to listen to our presentations. I remember this boy was a Jew. He attended the presentation 3 times consecutively. I think from 12 till 2. He kept staying there till 3. And then he came and he organized a presentation in his university to be attended by 200 people because there is no Muslim Student Association in his university. So he organized it himself. By the way, we give shahadas even to Israelis. I should know that. Our presentation is designed in a way that anyone who comes from a background that was discriminated against, like Jews or whatever, they like it so much because we speak a lot about equality, and we tackle the issue about Jews also, and we speak that Allah did not choose them to be the chosen people, and still they like it because of the way we present it. I always say everything can be said. It's about how you say it. We do open houses. We work with Islamic centers all over the world, telling them how to do an excellent or a good, successful open house. And then we go to present Islam every hour to a new group. I remember at this day, one of those men, when I was saying, Muslims pray 5 times every day. We should pray on time. The first one is at dawn, noon, afternoon, after sunset, in the evening. One of them did like that. Is this why Muslims come every day and park their cars for about 20 minutes in the morning at about 4:30 or 5 o'clock? I said yes. He said, I'm a neighbor of the mosque since 20 years, and I always thought that those people are drug dealers. I looked at the Muslims and I said, 20 years, this man is the neighbor of the mosque. No one ever went and knocked his door and told him, come, let us show you what we do. This is in the National War College in Washington, D.C. This is the Pentagon, okay? We spoke several times in the Pentagon. This is in universities. Anyway, I don't want to waste your time. Frankfurt Book Fair. This is Amr Musa, the head of the Arab League, Sheikh Al-Bouti, and Dr. Murad Hoffman. This is in Denmark before the cartoon. People think wrongly that the problem in Denmark started by the cartoon, which is untrue. The problem started when the Queen herself attacked Islam before the cartoon. She said Islam is a challenging religion, which can be understood both ways, good way or bad way. But if you see the whole context, it was bad. She said Muslims have reached this status because we are tolerant with them and lazy. So it's challenging in a negative way. So we went and we had a big lecture there, and we invited the Queen, the Prime Minister, the ministers, and we called our lecture Islam is a challenging religion, showing them the true challenge of Islam, challenging every individual if he can be in a continuous state of self-development or not. This is in Uganda 3 months ago, okay, and this is in Uganda 3 weeks ago. We booked the soccer stadium, the football stadium in Uganda. A lecture was attended by more than 20,000 people. There were bishops who were given the chance to talk. There were pastors, 11 pastors were given the chance to talk, and alhamdulillah, I debated with them, and it ended up giving 77 people shahada after the presentation. Next day, 13 came, said we slept on what we heard, and we think we are ready now to take shahada. We gave shahada to 90 people there, alhamdulillah. So they went bringing Benny Hinn in the stadium also, with millions of dollars, posting billboards everywhere, buses bringing the people. His lecture was two days ago. So we're going back, inshallah, again to Uganda. That's in Egypt. Here, this is Malaysia. This is Dr. Mahathir Mohamad congratulating us for our work. This is a delegation of the Danish church leaders. who came for dialogue, and I was responsible I was one of the people, the Muslims, who were dialoguing with them. This man is the head of the delegation. In his speech, he said, Muslims should understand that we never meant to hurt them. We just have something in Denmark called freedom of speech. So he's giving us lessons in freedom of speech. And this is actually what I didn't like, because I see that the main dilemma in the Danish issue was that non-Muslims took an opinion about Islam, or took an idea that Islam is against freedom of speech. And Muslims, many of them thought that freedom of speech hurts us, which is wrong. So what we did is we did a conference in Denmark for the Danish journalists that was attended by 134 Danish journalists. This is about 1/3 the number of Danish journalists, because Denmark is a very small country. There isn't even like 500 or 600 journalists in Denmark. So about 1/3 of the journalists attended this presentation. And the presentation was titled, Freedom of Speech Has No Limits in Islam. Which means, please don't give us lessons about freedom of speech. We got them already. When they were asked, why did you come in big number to this presentation? Even though there was a presentation before us, 10 days before this one, there was a conference that had a big media coverage. And very renowned speakers of Islam went and they spoke in this conference. 25 journalists attended that conference among the audience. But our conference was closed with invitations alone, and 134 journalists attended, 10 politicians attended, among them there are 3 parliamentarians. They said the one who received the invitation that came to us for sure will go to the event. Because if this is the invitation, what about the event? Each one of them received a box, 3-dimensional box like that, says you are invited, and a hazy picture of a bridge like that. You open the box, you find a beautiful word saying the peoples of the East and the West are the branches of the same tree, and when people look into the roots, they will find the branches of the, something like that, beautiful. But it was signed by someone called Knud Holmboe, which is a Danish name. Unknown Danish name. And a website, www.knud-holmboe.com. We did this website. And then there is a chocolate that has on it the address and the date, 27th of March, Marriott, Copenhagen. You pick up the chocolate to eat it, you find that the invitation is folded and colorful like that, stuck to the chocolate. And everything, and every keynote speaker said there is something about him, explaining what will happen in the event. So they went. And there was some media, good media coverage about the presentation. 55% of them said in the evaluation forms, our respect to Prophet Muhammad increased after the presentation. You would tell me, but you always get 92% success. Yes, but not with journalists. With journalists, I wasn't hoping 10%. I got 55% with the journalists, alhamdulillah. Let me show you what happened. I showed them Knud Holmboe. This is Knud Holmboe. You know who is he? He is the first convert to Islam in Denmark in the beginning of the 20th century. Do you know what was his profession? Can you imagine? Journalist. The first Muslim in Denmark was a journalist. How he died? He died when he was 29 years old as a martyr of freedom of speech. He was killed by Mussolini because he refused to retract what he published. This man, who watched the movie Omar al-Mukhtar? what's the, did you never watch it? Did you watch Omar al-Mukhtar? You watched it? Why don't you raise your hand? Okay, good, alhamdulillah. Do you remember when Anthony Quinn died at the end of the movie when he was hanged and the glasses fell from his... and a small boy called Ali, he grabbed the glasses. He was not small like that, he was 29 years old. Ali is a symbol for Qunut. This was Ali Qunut Halambo, a son of Umar. He was like a son for Umar al-Mukhtar. What happened is that he wanted to do Hajj. So he bought a Chevrolet in Morocco and he went with it in this route, going towards Hajj. And then he wrote a book speaking about this beautiful adventure in the desert. He called it Desert Encounter. Actually, Brenner, which means the deserts are burning. And most of the book was here in the Libyan desert, where he interacted with both the Mujahideen led by Umar al-Mukhtar, and he joined the resistance, and he also interacted with the Italian fascists who were occupying Libya. And he had a small camera in his hand and he kept taking pictures. This is a true picture for Umar al-Mukhtar and Graziani in the peace talks. So he was like the photographer of Umar al-Mukhtar. This is during a raid, which means that he used to go out with the Muslims in the raids, raiding the Italians. This is one of the two pictures that were very humiliating for Mussolini. Those are two Italian officers, prisoners of war in the imprisonment camps of Umar al-Mukhtar. And Mussolini didn't want the Italians or the Europeans to know that Italians are taking prisoners in Libya. He said, daily executions. He said, I used to witness 30 daily executions in Benghazi. The orphans of the Mujahideen. This is the last picture for Knut Holmboe 3 days before his death. Wearing Arab, on a camel, going towards Hajj. So we told them, this man died as a martyr of freedom of speech. He's someone that you also are very proud of because he's Danish, and this is because of two things. His beautiful Danish culture that doesn't compromise freedom of speech, and the ahadith of Prophet Muhammad that taught him that freedom of speech has no limits. Prophet Muhammad said, if you see my ummah afraid of telling a tyrant that he's a tyrant, then there is no hope in them. What does a tyrant do? Tyrants kill. The Prophet said, don't be afraid of tyrants, which means it has no limits. Prophet Muhammad said that the best of martyrs is he who got himself murdered when he criticized a tyrant for his tyranny. He's praising those who go to the end without limits. But it has a direction, always against tyrants and oppressors, to relieve the oppressed and the ill-treated. And you, the Danish journalists who moved the streets of Copenhagen last year against George Bush, keep doing the good job, but make sure that you are always on the right track, always in the right direction. Don't go against the oppressed. So we united the hearts. What happened was a conspiracy. You should understand this. It was not about attacking Prophet Muhammad. No. Denmark and Norway are the only two friends in the European Union for the Palestinians. When Ismail Haniyeh formed for the second time, the government, last month, who is the only European who went to congratulate him? The Norwegian minister, right? Norway, there's a governorate in Norway that is banning Israeli goods since 1999. It's called Sorbor. And the workers' union in Denmark tried to pass a legislation in the parliament in the year 2002 banning Israeli goods, boycotting Israel. The only two friends for the Palestinians are the Norwegians and the Danes. Who would like to see the flags of Denmark and Norway burning in the streets of Gaza? Think about it. Think about it. And then the cartoons were republished again in all countries except two countries. The United States of America and the UK. The friends of Muslims. Think about it. These are things to think about it. We shouldn't be led by SMS messages. No. And then we showed those Danish journalists when they came 2 months ago to Egypt for dialogue for the second time with the Muslim journalists from Reuters, from every Al-Ahram Weekly, and those are Danish journalists. We showed them what Larsen, the Swedish, said. He's atheist. Christopher Bolin, he's a practicing Christian, said in America that the publisher of the cartoon, Fleming Rose, is the colleague of Daniel Pipes. Daniel Pipes, for your information, he is the biggest Zionist in the world. He lives in Philadelphia. He published on his website that Ariel Sharon, deserves to be in coma and deserves to be tortured like that because he was too soft with the Palestinians. So the publisher of the cartoon was the colleague of this man, and he is the one who translates his articles in Danish. It was all a conspiracy. These are some gratitude letters from the American University in Washington, D.C., from the Pentagon, from University of Maryland, some churches, Canadian schools. Now we'll talk briefly about training the dua. We give workshops. Until today, we trained about 3,770 Muslims all over the world on how to present Islam to their fellow non-Muslims. We trained them in the USA, in the UK, in Malaysia, in Germany, in Egypt, in Kuwait, in Denmark, and in Uganda. And last week, I trained 55 people in South Africa, in Cape Town. I was wishing to train people here because I'm here for 4 or 5 days, but there was no workshop set for me. Hopefully next time, inshallah. I'll be training in Canada, Finland, and Sweden in the next 2 months. We have different levels of workshops. The first one is how to present Islam. This is a 3 days. It can be maybe compressed into 2 days maximum. Workshop that has presentation skills, public speaking skills, and how to use those skills on presenting Islamic beliefs and concepts. How to explain Islam in a convincing, logical, spiritual way. And you can give a good presentation in a church, and then someone throws on you a question that explodes on you. So how to answer difficult questions about suicide bombing, about whatever, these things, okay? And refute misconceptions on Islam, logically, spiritually, positively. The Prophet was always positive. The man came to him and he said, "Oh Prophet of Allah, I do everything that Allah told us, except one thing. I want you to allow me to fornicate." Then leave his zina. The Prophet never said no. The Prophet dealt with him emotionally. And we teach people how to deal with the emotions of people. He said, "Would you accept this for your mother?" The man said, "No, Prophet of Allah." And if the Prophet wants to deal with him logically, that was enough. But the Prophet continued, "Do you accept it for your sister? No. Do you accept it for your daughter? No. Do you accept it for your aunt? No, 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 no." Emotions. These are the things that we also use. How can you explain things like polygamy and stuff like that to the non-Muslims? And then there's a practical training, level 3, which is the dua. After taking those 2 levels, which this is in 3 days, this is 4 days, they come and they practice. They do presentations. We give them an evaluation for their performance. They go, they practice again, they come back, they give another presentation. We give them an evaluation again about their performance till they become ready to deal with non-Muslims. Those who pass level 3, they start dealing with non-Muslims. If we are there also with them while they are dealing with non-Muslims, giving presentations, which is coaching them in field, those who pass, they become certified presenters of Islam. We have 3,770 people entering here. We have 10 people now certified presenters of Islam, and there is 70 to 80 people struggling in this area. to become presenters, inshallah, in more languages. Those who train the trainers after this, they can become also trainers, training in the International Institute for Training Presenters. We trained 55 dua of the IPC, which is the Islam Propagation Committee in Kuwait, one of the very old, one of the oldest Islamic organizations, da'wah organizations. This is in Denmark before the cartoons. I trained 25 brothers and sisters in Denmark. If you see them, people sitting like that in groups, you should know that this is level number 2, the misconceptions one, because in this level, in the first day, I teach people the keys of answering misconceptions. And the rest of the days, I play the devil advocate, I provoke the dua, and then they take 5 to 10 minutes after each misconception, they do the deliberation, and they come back to us with their approach. We hear from them. What will they do? And then we discuss it among us. So it's a very interesting workshop. But when you see people sitting like that, like a theater killer, so this means that this is level number 1, giving the first one. Here, this is in Egypt. The other one was in Malaysia, this is in Egypt. We trained about 1,000 tourist guides in Egypt. This man is Chinese, this is our representative in Taiwan. Here, you see here, also sitting in groups like that, they are now deliberating. I threw the misconception already maybe about slavery, and they are now discussing. And each table has a tag, each group, they have a name. And then we take points, and the winning group every day wins a big chocolate, Toblerone chocolate like that. It's a half a kilo. Yeah? I want to tell you something. Some of those people that you see were apostates. Apostated from Islam. Now they are du'a. Alhamdulillah. Okay. This is in Uganda. We trained 70 du'a 3 weeks ago. A whole week. 6 days actually. From 9 to 5 every day. One of them sent me an email that I read here when I'm in South Africa, in Cape Town. He said, I already gave shahada to 28 people in 2 weeks. Here, this is level number 3. When you see just one like that, this is in our office. They are giving presentations, and then we give them the evaluation of their performance. So this is level number 3. Here again, you see how they are very attentive. Here, this is a speaker speaking, telling us the approach of her group. Okay? Those are our employees and volunteers in Egypt who are organizing all this work. May Allah accept it from them and reward them. Man ansari Allah ilallah, or as Jesus said in the Quran, who are my helpers to Allah. That's what I'm asking you actually. Would you like to help me organize big workshop in South Africa for at least, it's a retreat to go to a camp or somewhere for a whole week to train about 100 dua to get ready, because there's no time, to get ready for the World Cup in 2010? Because there is no time. Only 2.5 years, and there is no time. Some people wake up at the last day. We want to do da'wah tomorrow in the World Cup. No, we only have 2.5 years, and this is not even enough time. We need to quickly start training our dua in order to have like 100 strong da'i giving da'wah to the whole world. Let me tell you something also, another thing that we did, which is a documentary on Islam. Inshallah, it will be the first documentary on Islam in 17 different languages, including the Hebrew language.
The generous one, the watchful one.
This is speaking about
Responder to prayer.
the names of Allah.
The perfect one.
It deals from the beginning with the here. This is chapters. This one is the meaning of the word Islam. It's an introduction. Chapter number 2, does God exist? 8 minutes dealing with the issue of atheism. An apostate for 6 years returned to Islam after watching those 8 minutes, proving the existence of God from the Quran and matching what we have in the Quran with the words of philosophers like Aristotle, like René Descartes, like Immanuel Kant. This one deals with some Islamic perspectives like the original goodness, you know, opposite to the original sin. We are calling it the original goodness, and the free choice, la ikraha fi din, and equality. And then we have Islamic beliefs, Allah, angels of God, scriptures of God, and so on. When we deal with the Quran, we have a whole chapter about Islam and science, scientific miracles and stuff like that. And then we have the 5 pillars of Islam on 2 chapters. So this is something that we did, alhamdulillah, very professionally. It's just that there is no time now. We ran it yesterday in the school. Maybe some brothers are here, they can tell you the impact on the audience, alhamdulillah. And that's it. I'm ready for any question. Yes. Allah, you have it. This is Brother Isa, the translator to Zulu language. He will translate the movie to Zulu language, inshallah. Yes, Isa.
The title, the fog is lifting.
Yes.
What maybe was the idea behind of choosing?
Okay, let me tell you something. This title is the title of the 3 parts. This is a series of documentaries called The Fog is Lifting, Part 1, Islam in Brief. The fog is lifting, the fog about Islam. There is a lot of fog on the picture of Islam. So we are removing the fog, we are lifting the fog. Okay? Part 2 will be Islam, a religion of peace or a religion of war, talking about jihad and terrorism and stuff like that. Part 3 will be Islam in women. Not women in Islam, Islam in women, because there's a phenomenon. 70% of new Muslims are women, with all the rumors on Islam. It's discriminating against women and so on. So this is, but The Fog is Lifting is the name of the series itself. Okay. You don't like the name, huh?
No. I like it, but for maybe clarification for someone who just want to have an idea.
Yeah, there's a lot of fog on the picture now, so we just leave the fog. Any other question? I haven't got any question from sisters since I came to Durban. Yesterday or today. I don't know why sisters don't ask here. خلاص.
I didn't ask, we just pointed one of them.
Okay. Okay, brothers. خلاص كده جزاكم الله خير. I'm released. الحمد لله. جزاكم الله خير. بارك الله فيكم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحان الذي أسرى بعبده ليلا من المسجد الحرام إلى المسجد الأقصى الذي باركنا حوله لنريه من آياتنا إنه هو السميع البصير وآتينا موسى الكتاب وجعلناه هدى لبني إسرائيل ألا تتخذوا من دوني وكيلا ذرية من حملنا مع نوح إنه كان عبدا شكورا وقضينا إلى بني إسرائيل في الكتاب لتفسدن في الأرض لتفسدن في الأرض مرتين ولتعلن علوا كبيرا فإذا جاء وعد أولاهما بعثنا عليكم عبادا لنا أولي بأس شديد فجاسوا خلال الديار وكان وعدا مفعولا ثم رددنا لكم الكرة عليهم وأمددناكم بأموال وبنين وجعلناكم أكثر نفيرا إن أحسنتم أحسنتم لأنفسكم وإن أسأتم فلها فإذا جاء وعد الآخرة ليسوءوا وجوهكم وليدخلوا المسجد كما دخلوه أول مرة وليتبروا ما علوا تكبيرا صدق الله العظيم.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. All praise and thanks is due to Allah, and may Allah shower His choicest blessings on the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We are really grateful to Almighty Allah for blessing us this evening with the presence of our brother Fadel Soliman. Brother Fadel is the director of the Bridges Foundation. He's a former imam at the American University, Washington, D.C., and he's been the chief trainer at the International Institute for Training Presenters, IITP. By profession, he is an electronics engineer. He left the profession to serve Dawah. He's also spent many years in doing marketing, and so he's quite versatile in what he's doing. He's also been at some stage the director of WAMI in the United States and Canada. We are very honored, and we want to express our thanks to Dr. Abdul Hakim Quick, who had asked him to come to South Africa and had passed him on the KZN leg to the IPCI. So we want to also thank Dr. Quick and Discover Islam for giving us the opportunity to have him in Durban. Just a bit about the Bridges Foundation. They involved essentially in training and presentation and public speaking skills on how to present Islamic beliefs and concepts, and how to answer questions and refute misconceptions honestly and accurately about Islam. Also, they have run training workshops in the USA, Denmark, Germany, Egypt, Kuwait, Malaysia, Uganda, and I think we can now add South Africa shortly to it, inshallah. Brother Fadel has 2 children, I believe, alhamdulillah. He lives in Egypt presently, but he travels widely to do all the presentations. Many of us know Dr. Jamal Badawi, and Dr. Jamal Badawi is the trustee with Fadel in the Bridges Foundation, and their main purpose is to bridge and to let people know what is the true picture of Islam on many issues. Just briefly for those people who are here, and just a bit about the IPCI very quickly. Everybody, or most people know that it was founded by 2 people, Sheikh Ahmed and Brother Ghulam Hussain Vanka, both who have passed away, and may Allah bless them and shower their graves with nur, inshallah. The programs presently at the IPCI, firstly we have the IPCI Learning Academy, And in the Learning Academy, there are 3 programs. The first one is a comparative religion class, where we have students from South Africa and other parts of the world. I'm very happy that Brother Yunus and Hassan from Sudan have joined us here for the program. There's also Brother Aslam from the Eastern Cape, some brothers from Escort. Welcome, and we're glad that you are with us tonight. Essentially, the comparative class is to study Islam in relation to Hinduism, Christianity, Judaism, and to look at other things that's happening. There's a whole program, and the prospect is available from the IPCI. The second classes that we have, which is very important to us, is the revert classes. We don't seem to have a name. The suggestion was Pathfinders class, because revert, I'm a revert to, or my forefathers were reverts to Islam in India 400-500 years ago. But the term revert, we're just studying and see how we can, but for the time being, using the term revert classes, those who have become Muslim, and this is a very important part that we have to train them to ensure that they learn about Islam effectively. Brother Ibrahim Tembu and Haji Zora Mullah are in charge of the class. But very important, linked with the revert classes, we have a revert forum meeting on a regular basis where people who have embraced Islam discuss the various difficulties they have, everything. And recently we have linked up with the South African National Zakat Fund to help some of the people, because some of them when they embrace Islam go through a lot of trauma, they're thrown out of the home, have many difficulties. So we feel that we need to support some of them. So we will be partnering SANZAF in that. Then we also have the School of Journalism, where we have classes where people are trained how to respond to issues in the media relating to Muslims. Of course, the literature that the IPCI has produced over the years, essentially the books of Ahmed, these have become worldwide known. We have now a new program, it's a Dawah box, where 12 of the booklets of his are available. Then there's also the CDs, DVDs of Ahmed Didat, which are available, and many other scholars who have visited us. Recently, under the leadership of Dr. Muhammad Khan, our Amir, the IPCI started the Get Serious About Dawah campaign. So every week, we are in different towns, twice a week, where we meet business houses. We encourage them. They have not done the job by explaining Islam to their staff. So we go there, we have a meeting with their staff, we pass on the Qur'ans, literature, everything what people need. So this is an ongoing program, and I think we've had a very successful program here. 1,000 of Qur'ans and other things have been distributed to the various people working at business houses. People might not become Muslim, but we want them to understand us and like them to know what we believe in. Also, one of the very important programs is the visit to the masjid. We have thousands of tourists coming and visiting us. We have 3 types of programs. One is where they want to visit the masjid. They don't have too much time. Essentially, everything explained to them about the masjid. And you'll be surprised, people are looking for the idols. They will say, no, there's a difference. We Muslims are different. We don't have idols. And people are told many things, to clear some of the misconceptions they have. Generally, most of the tourists that we have are from Europe, from Germany, Scandinavian countries, England, and we have many of them coming. This is a daily thing, the Mosque Tour program. This Mosque Tour program has also been replicated by other organizations in England. It's very successful. A group in Dubai do it very successfully, and they've had a lot of reverts to Islam in Dubai. So this type of program is also in other parts of the world. We make dua that Allah blesses the people who are engaged in Islamic work. I'm very happy that my mentor, Dr. Tutla, is also here. He's been involved in Changa, many of the brothers here, and we want to welcome all of you. And may Allah bless everybody who are striving for His cause. Just something that we are looking at re-engineering the IPCI, because every organization needs to look at its program and see what is best and suitable for that time and age. Also, the IPCI operates in a very transparent and open manner. We have audited accounts, and we are very accountable to the community. And we have made it very clear that the IPCI belongs to the Ummah, and you are free to come and engage the IPCI and work with us. Jazakallah. I want to thank you all for attending this evening's program, and I will now hand over to our guest, Brother Fadel. Jazakallah khair.
All praises are due to Allah. the creator, the cherisher, and the sustainer of this universe. And may his peace and blessings be upon his noble Prophet Muhammad and his companions and his family and those who follow them. Dear respected brothers and sisters, I would like to start also by thanking Dr. Abdullah Hakim Quick for making a dream come true for me, which is coming to South Africa. I always heard about the beauty of your country, and when I came here I found that it is really beautiful, because I'm here since 10 days. Usually when I go in long trips, in the first day I found that the country is very beautiful. And this is maybe because I spent like 10, 12 hours in the plane, so any land will be beautiful. But your country until today is still very beautiful. So it looks like it's really beautiful. Not because I spent like 12 hours on the plane. But let me tell you something, actually, I would have never imagined that in South Africa there are Muslims, except from the tapes of Sheikh Ahmed and the books. And may Allah be merciful to him and forgive him and forgive us all and erase our sins from our records. I visited his tomb today and I made dua for him. And I'm very proud to be here in this organization which he founded. Let me tell you why I am here now. I learned that the World Cup 2010 will be held in South Africa. That's something that I heard here from Dr. Quick, because I'm not really a fan of soccer at all. I don't even. Egypt was playing in the World Cup 8 years ago, and I wasn't even watching the Egyptian team. But anyway, this is something that we as dua should make use of. We shouldn't really waste this chance. And there is no time. Only 2.5 years, which is a very short time. If you want really to train real dua, who will be doing something really very effective, inshallah, then we need to start. So let me try to sell myself to you now, or sell my organization to you now, and tell you what we in Bridges Foundation can do to you here in South Africa. Our logo speaks for itself, 5 people holding hands with each other, forming like a bridge, and they are standing on a curved line which represents planet Earth. Those 5 people have heads, and their heads are of different colors. Each color is representing the continent they are coming from. So that's an African holding hands with a European, Australian, American, and Asian. And we aim to bridge people from different cultures and backgrounds through education. We say our slogan is peacemaking through education, which means that we only accept to take part in serious events. Whenever we are invited to speak about Islam and take questions from non-Muslims or participate in a real interfaith dialogue, we accept. But if we are invited to such events where people go and eat cookies with each other and sing in a church, we just apologize. This is not our way. In Bridges Foundation, we have 2 main divisions. The first one is PPP, which is Public Presenters for Peace, a group of presenters who are presenting Islam in different languages. We avoid a little bit the word da'wah and du'at in English. While I was in the States, I attended a hearing in the Congress. And the Congress was bringing one of the experts on terrorism to address the Congress on terrorism issues. And he said, if you want to know those suspected terrorist organizations and Wahhabis, you just go to their websites. If you find the word dawah, this means that they have the oil money and they are coming to convert you all to Islam and make you read the Quran and stuff like that. So we just say presenters of Islam, or which is the same. And IITP, which is the International Institute for Training Presenters. Let me now quickly show you our board of trustees. This year is Dr. Jamal Badawi, who is a founder of Bridges Foundation. So he's been on the board since we started in 2004. And Dr. Murad Hoffman, who's also been a founder of Bridges Foundation, but lately, alhamdulillah, they were joined by Dr. Zaghlul al-Najjar. I shouldn't also forget Sister Yvonne Ridley, who was also a founder of Bridges Foundation in 2004. And also Brother Abdul Wahid Peterson and Brother Walid Basyouni from the States. We have several presentations in Bridges Foundation for non-Muslims. This is the first one, called Islam in Brief. The series of presentations that we have are called the Fog is Lifting series.
The first one is this one, Islam in brief. When we explain the meaning of the word Islam, the 6 main beliefs of Muslims and the 5 pillars of Islam to non-Muslims. Of course, one of the misconceptions about Islam is that Allah is a different God. He is mean, he is cube-shaped. They dress him in black cloth in Mecca and they circumambulate him, and he says, kill them wherever you find them. You're laughing, but this is something that was published in the Washington Post. When I was the Imam at the American University, so this is something that was published in the Washington Post in Washington, D.C. itself. So Allah told us to establish common grounds with them always, and to tell them, Ilahuna wa ilahukum wahid, our God and your God is one. And then after establishing the common grounds, then we can start tackling the differences. So we tell them, no, Allah is the proper noun for God in Arabic language. Actually, the word Allah in the Arabic language means the one true God. Arab Christians and Jews, they say Allah as well. Of course, this is shocking for them. Are you telling me that my fellow Christian is worshipping Allah? Yes, here. This is the word Allah in the Arabic language. This is the first page of the Arabic Christian Bible. Here, this is the word At-Takween, which means Genesis. So this is the first paragraph. Can you tell me how many times the word Allah exists here in this paragraph? And they start counting with us. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 times. So the word Allah exists 6 times in the first paragraph alone of the Arabic Christian Bible. 17 times in the whole page. Thousands of times all through the Bible. So when we say there is no God except Allah, this shouldn't be offensive for you. This unites us. But Muslims believe that Allah is unique. And then from here we start tackling the differences. We've been giving these talks, actually this presentation was given to more than 40,000 people until today. In churches, universities, in the States, in North America as a whole, and in Europe, and lately in Africa also, alhamdulillah, we've been giving this, we give it in Uganda. You will see now the picture of what we did in Uganda. We speak about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what the famous intellectual said about him, some of what, like clips from his biography before that he became a prophet, after he became a prophet. Here, this is Lamartine saying, if greatness of purpose, smallness of means, and outstanding results are the criteria of a human genius, who could dare to compare any great man in modern history with Muhammad? Mahatma Gandhi, of course, this is a very important man because he's a man of peace. He's the man who started this concept of peaceful resistance, and they want us all to, of course, to be like Mahatma Gandhi, to resist them in Iraq and Palestine like Mahatma Gandhi. So we show them what Mahatma Gandhi said about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, I became more than convinced that it was not the sword that won a place for Islam in those days in the scheme of life. It was the rigid simplicity, the utter self-effacement of the Prophet, his scrupulous regard for his pledges, his intense devotion to his friends and followers, his intrepidity, his fearlessness, his absolute trust in God and in his own mission. We take them quickly through 4 or 5 very clear scientific miracles of the Quran. Because I always say scientific miracles in the Quran are 2 types. Scientific miracles because they are scientific miracles, and there are scientific miracles because some Muslims want them to be scientific miracles. So we know, we take those which are clear scientific miracles that make people say, wow, they don't argue with you. Like this one, بَلَا قَادِرِينَ عَلَىٰ أَن نُسَوِّيَ بَنَانَهُ. Yes, we are able to fashion in perfect order the very tips of his fingers. And then we also show them the role of the Muslim scientists, which many scientific branches of knowledge are indebted to them. At the same time, they were also scholars of Quran and Tafsir, like Ibn Sina. For 500 years, his 2 books, the Canon of Medicine and the Book of Healing, were the authority on medicine. Jabir ibn Hayyan, known as the father of chemistry, and chemistry in the Old English was alchemy, which is alchemia in Arabic. So they used to quote from our language and put in their language. Like now we say TV, radio, internet, but they used to take our one. Al-Khwarizmi, okay, he's the one who invented algebra and trigonometry and calculus, Al-Zahrawi, and so on. And then we tackle some of their concerns. And this is one of the things that we teach also to our trainees in the workshops. Islam doesn't need endorsement from anyone. Don't be apologetic. Islam actually in the intellectual level can attack, but it shouldn't even defend itself. So one of the main concerns is, in the West, is the status of Muslim women in Islam. And of course, number one is hijab. Why are they wearing like that? And here, one of the things that I used to do in churches is I asked them first, have you ever seen Muslim women wearing hijab before? So all of them raised their hands. And then I asked them, honestly, if you ever wondered why are they wearing like that, please raise your hand. 90% of them, they raise their hands. And some of them say, of course, they look like aliens coming from outer space. Of course we wonder, how can anyone wear like that? I say, okay, do you know whose picture is this? So they say, Mary. I say, yes, Christians believe that this is the picture of Virgin Mary. I am clear like that, I didn't say she's Mary. Huh? And this one, Mother Teresa. I say, do you know a name of one nun in the whole Christian history that was better than this one? This Nobel Prize winner who founded many organizations that are feeding the poor all over the world? No, none is better than this nun. I say, okay, can we say that those two women are the best two women in your eyes? Yes, sure. Okay, and this is my sister. Now, the quiz that we have for you tonight, what is common in the three of them? For God's sake, tell me, what's common? So they say hijab. I say, wait a minute. 1 minute ago you were telling me that you were wondering why Muslim women are wearing like that, and now you are telling me that Muslim women are wearing like the best of Christian women. I think the question should be why you are not wearing like that. Ask Brother Yusuf Estes, ask any da'i in the West. After every presentation, there is always a question about hijab, except in those presentations. 40,000 people now, and not one of them asked about hijab. Why? Because the issue was killed. When it was explained and presented this way, that's it. And I always say this, I had an experience that happened to me twice, which was very strange, and until now I don't know how to deal with it. I had non-Muslim women wearing hijab after the presentation. An American woman didn't take shahada and she wore hijab, and a British woman didn't take shahada and she wore hijab. I was not trying to convince them to wear hijab, but that's what happened. And this woman came to me in America, a sister, wearing excellent hijab. She came to me and she said, I need to be Muslim. I said, what? Aren't you Muslim? She said, no, I want to take shahada. I said, but you're wearing hijab? She said, yes. 3 months ago, you came to our church, and since that time, I'm wearing like that. I said, and then what happened? She said, nothing. Every time I go, they tell me, why are you wearing like that? These people destroyed your mind or what? This is how Muslim women are wearing. So I say, then she was Muslim. Every time they tell her, every Sunday, they tell her, why are you wearing like that? This is how Muslim women are wearing. They kept saying so to her till she became kafir. She committed kufr. She committed disbelief from their own perspective, so she became Muslim. The word kafir in Arabic means disbeliever. I was faced with this issue here that it's used in another context. Okay. We explained to them the word jihad. And here there are two schools. A school that likes to beautify Islam and do some plastic surgery and show it in a beautiful way like that. And a school that just presents Islam as it is. And we are the second school. We don't try to beautify Islam. Because Islam is beautiful already. So we don't say jihad is jihad in nafs. And we don't say Islam means peace. And people think that they will love us when we say so. No, actually, all what comes to their minds when we keep saying peace, peace like that is the hippies in the 60s when they were smoking marijuana and saying peace like that. They will never love us like that. So we explain jihad as we learned from the scholars. Linguistically, it means striving and struggling because it came from the word jahada, which is the root word. And Islamically, it has three main meanings. Number one is jihadun nafs, of course, non-violence, struggling within oneself for a life of virtue. It's not easy to live a life with sincerity, to wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning and wash your face, hands and feet while everybody else is in bed, and you go to pray in the mosque. That's not easy. This needs jihad. And to spend in charity with sincerity without showing off and telling everybody that you're spending in charity. This also needs jihad. Saying the truth, even if it's against your own interest. In some countries, when people say the truth, they can find themselves in jail. What does Islam say here? Still say the truth, even if it costs your life. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, خير الشهداء حمزة ورجل قام إلى إمام جائر فأمره ونهاه فقتله. The best of martyrs is Hamza, and a man who was murdered by a tyrant for criticizing his tyranny. So the Prophet is saying, still say the truth, even if it costs you your life. You will die one day, die with dignity today, instead of getting run over by a car. And fighting to establish justice, which is a supreme goal in every civilization, not only in Islamic teachings. When people lose their rights, lose their land, they can fight to regain back their land. That's it. And this is the verse that they use it to attack Muslims, and they said those people have fight for the cause of Allah. They should have love for the cause of Allah. But read the verse properly. The verse says, fight in the cause of Allah those who fight you. And even when we go to the battlefield to fight and establish justice and regain back our rights, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, and do not transgress the limits. وَلَا تَعْتَدُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُعْتَدِينَ. For Allah does not love transgressors. What are those limits? Stated in Prophet Muhammad combat orders. Number one, never kill innocent people. That's a ruling in fiqh, whether people like it or not. Do not fight except combatants. People who are called soldiers, who have arms and they fight. And here I tell the trainees also, you are sure 100% that you will be asked about 9/11, right or not? And 7/7. And 11th of March in Madrid. So many dates now. You're sure 100% that you will be asked. Why wait for the question to be thrown on you at the end of the presentation and then you become defensive and say, no, it cannot be justified in Islam. And then what else you will say? You have to say so. Here you take the initiative and you say in your lecture, which means that what happened on 9/11 and 7/7 cannot be justified in Islam. Like that, you avoided the question. And even if a cynic person in the audience asks you about this, you will be defended by the non-Muslim audience. They will tell him, shh, sit down, he talked about that already. And one of the things that I say always to the trainees, that if you think that what happened on 9/11 can be justified in Islam, you cannot present Islam. That's it. Because we are not like them. Yes, they have no problem bombing cities, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Iraq, but we are not like them. That's it. We have a ruling in fiqh. No one can be fought except a combatant. They didn't only kill our civilians, they also raped our women in Bosnia. Do we rape the women? We can't do that. The Prophet said, never torture prisoners of war. When we take captives, we don't make them stand like that with the black hoods over their heads, or we make them lie naked over each other, and we don't do these things at all. The Prophet ﷺ showed us how to torture prisoners. How he used to torture his prisoners. He used to jail them in the mosque, and the Muslims coming every prayer, they bring them sweets and dates and milk. That was enough torture for them. They were never seen in a battle after that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, those who are qualified to go to paradise, they do these three things. وَيُطْعِمُونَ الطَّعَامَ عَلَى حُبِّهِ مِسْكِينًا وَيَتِيمًا وَأَسِيرًا. That out of their love to Allah, they feed the needy and the orphan and the POW, the prisoner of war. Never kill animals, never destroy crops, never destroy infrastructures. Of course, the Prophet didn't say infrastructures, but we are not allowed to poison the wells. Never mutilate bodies of enemies, dead or alive. All prisoners should be given fair treatment, and women and the children and the elderly should be protected from any harm. And always bury all dead with respect. And then I tell them, I challenge you. Go to www.un.org, which is the website of the United Nations. Download the Geneva Convention. If you find anything more than this, I'll give each one of you $100. I never waste this chance. I challenge them like that. And this is what we need to tell to our youth. Challenge with your religion. And then we were invited in the same churches, same universities to talk about Islam to the same congregations. So we couldn't give the same lecture. We developed a new lecture called Islam, a religion of peace or a religion of war. It's a very profound lecture in which the presentation can prove to the audience that Islam is a religion of peace and war exists in Islam only as an exception. In this lecture we prove that jihad doesn't equal terrorism, but rather jihad equals war on terrorism. And we explained and we prove it. And I prove it to them by telling them, what do you think the difference between violence and terrorism is? What is the difference between violence and terrorism? Can we say that violence is what two enemies are practicing against each other directly, while terrorism is violence practiced against the weak to put pressure on the enemy indirectly? Violence against the civilians, unarmed people, people who are weak, who cannot defend themselves, but to put pressure on the enemy indirectly? Yes, sure. Okay, Allah said in the Quran, وَمَا لَكُمْ لَا تُقَاتِلُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَالْمُسْتَضْعَفِينَ مِنَ الرِّجَالِ وَالنِّسَاءِ وَالْوِلْدَانِ. How come you don't fight for the cause of Allah and for the cause of the weak, the ill-treated and oppressed among men, women and children? What did we say the weak are suffering from? Terrorism. Then jihad equals war on terrorism. But not the American way, it's the Muslim way. Because we don't torture prisoners and we don't bomb cities. Right? In this presentation we prove that Islam came calling for one cooperating human community where Muslims and non-Muslims cooperate with each other and be in a continuous state of dialogue. In this presentation we prove that Islam is a universal religion, not the religion of the Indians or the Arabs. Yusuf Estes, by the way, when he became Muslim, his mother told him, why? You're not from there, you're from Texas. And Islam came to liberate the human beings from the tyranny of other human beings. Of course, each one of those topics takes like 10 minutes to prove it from the Quran and Sunnah. Islam came with equality and brotherhood between all people. Islam came with justice to all people and to establish world peace and with tolerance to other people. Of course, each one of these takes exactly 5 to 10 minutes to prove it. But alhamdulillah, after you finish this, you will see now the statistics of the people who attended and the change in their position. And then we were invited for the third time to talk also to the same congregations. So we developed this presentation called Quran, the Discovery of Freedom. It's about human rights. This is actually a comparison between the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights and the Quran as a declaration of human rights that was declared 1400 years before the United Nations Declaration. And we actually on Cape Talk last week in the radio, this interviewer called Kate, she told me, of course you cannot argue that the Sharia law violates a lot of human rights. I said, if you believe that the Sharia law violates human rights, this is your own right. But why are you assuming that I cannot argue with this? I have a whole presentation about this, telling you and showing you all the human rights that are in the United Nations Declaration, where do they exist in the Quran? And then I can show you some human rights that exist in the Quran, but they do not exist in the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. And I want you then, after taking this presentation, to tell me, why is the old more comprehensive than the new? It's not 50 years older, it's 1400 years older, and it's more comprehensive. Here, that's what we do. We bring them the human right, the article of the United Nations, and what we have in the Quran. Human right, the article of the United Nations, what we have in the Quran, and so on. And then we have a presentation about women. It's called Women in Islam Between Equity and Liberation, where we prove that women and men are equal on the spiritual aspect, social aspect, legal and political aspect. Those are some of our presenters already. We have, alhamdulillah, like 10 certified presenters now. By the way, this one was the executive manager of Bridges Foundation for about 1.5 years. Now he is the Imam of Finsbury Park Mosque in London. Finsbury Park, I gave a khutbah there 2 weeks ago in the place of Abu Hamza al-Masri. Okay? So they took the mosque from Abu Hamza and his people, and then they gave it there to the jama'at that have moderate views, so they took Ahmed from us. We have about 40,000 people taking our presentation until now, alhamdulillah, non-Muslims. Not speaking about the Muslims at all. We have for them about 30,000 evaluation forms. By studying these evaluations, we found that 92% of the people who attended our presentation, they changed their position from Islam to a better position, whether becoming more neutral or even becoming supporters of Muslims. 7.5% they remain as negative as they were always, and 0.5% they accept Islam. These are some pictures of some congregations. I don't want to waste your time. Some organizations in the States, non-Muslims. This is an open house. We do open houses with Islamic centers all over the world. We tell them some guidelines of how to do a successful open house, and then we go to present Islam every hour for a new group. And I remember at that day, one of those men, when I just said that we Muslims pray 5 times every day, which is easy, any one of you can say so, you don't need training to say so. We pray on time. The first one is at dawn, the second one at noon, after sunset, in the evening. And the best way to do it is congregation with my brothers and sisters in the mosque. That's all I said. One of them did like that. Oh my God. Is this way Muslims come every day at about 5 o'clock in the morning and they park their cars for about 20 minutes and then they go? I said, yes. He said, I've been the neighbor of this mosque since more than 20 years, and I always thought that those people are the drug dealers among the Muslim community. See, the Muslims who pray Fajr, the elite, he thought they are the drug dealers. Subhanallah, wallahi, let me tell you something, sometimes I am worried. There's an ayah in the Quran that says, وَبَدَى لَهُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ مَا لَمْ يَكُونُوا يَحْتَسِبُونَ. That some people will go on the day of judgment and they will be shocked when they will be questioned about things that they never thought about. Some people will go on the day of judgment and say, alhamdulillah, we always used to eat halal chicken. We never eat haram chicken. And we used to pray 5 times in the mosque, alhamdulillah. So they think that they are going to Jannah directly. So they tell, come here, come here. You need to be... What? We eat halal chicken. No, wait. And then they found like 40 million people grabbing them from the neck like that. Oh Allah, they didn't tell us about you. Da'wah. Da'wah is the duty of Muslims, especially if they live among non-Muslims. This is something that needs to be awakened in the hearts of the believers, actually. I spoke in the Pentagon several times, National War College, this is in the Pentagon. We spoke in the Congress, alhamdulillah, and in the universities, Frankfurt Book Fair, this is Amr Musa, Sheikh al-Bouti, Murad Hoffman. This is a presentation in Denmark, which people think that the problem of Denmark started by the cartoons, which is false. The problem in Denmark started when the Queen of Denmark attacked Islam. And she said Islam is a challenging religion. So we held this conference in, actually it was a lecture, we held it in Copenhagen before the cartoons, and we invited the Queen and the Prime Minister and the ministers, and we called it Islam is a challenging religion. Telling them the real challenge of Islam, being challenging for every individual if he can be in a continuous state of self-development or not. And this is in Uganda 3 months ago. Alhamdulillah, it was okay. We were just exploring what we can do. And then a month ago, alhamdulillah, we were able to talk in the stadium. We booked the stadium for $1,500. 20,000 people attended. Most of them were Muslims, but about 2,000 or more were non-Muslims. Bishops, Catholic bishops, 11 pastors were given the chance to talk, and we debated with them, and alhamdulillah it ended up giving 77 people shahada, and 13 people next day took also shahada. They came saying we stepped on what we heard, and we decided to take shahada. That was beautiful actually.
And this can be a turning point in da'wah, because we give the da'wah at that day differently. What we did is we explained to them the Islamic beliefs as the beliefs of some other Christian sects called Unitarians. Instead of telling them Muslims who are maybe prospect suicide bomber, they believe in these things that make sense. No, there are also other Christian sects who believe in things that make sense, more sense than the Trinitarians. And then we linked the Unitarians to Islam through 2 hadith for Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and from there we got, alhamdulillah, excellent number of shahadas. It's as if you are taking them gradually. And then after they drop the doctrine of the church and the Trinity and all these things, you just explain to them that, or you like convince them that if you are going to buy a PC and become a PC user, then why buy it with Windows 93? Take Windows XP, right? And it worked, alhamdulillah. That was in Malaysia. The Bridges Foundation had a big role in the Danish cartoon crisis, in solving the problem itself. And that was the delegation of the Danish churches that came for dialogue, and I was delegated by the Grand Mufti of Egypt to do the dialogue with them. And this man, who was the head of the delegation at that day, this priest, he said, Muslims, we never meant to hurt you. It's only that we have something in Denmark called freedom of speech. And this really hurted me more, because he's giving me lessons in freedom of speech. Who are you to give me lessons in freedom of speech? So we held a conference in Denmark that was attended by 134 Danish journalists on the 27th of March in Copenhagen. And 10 politicians, among them 3 parliamentarians. And after this conference, because my presentation there was titled, Freedom of Speech Has No Limits in Islam, they said our respect to Prophet Muhammad increased after the presentation. And I proved it to them, that freedom of speech has no limits in Islam, so don't give us lessons in freedom of speech. But that's a whole topic, it's a big issue. And alhamdulillah, it worked with them. When they were told, why did you come in big number like that to this event? 10 days before this event, there was another conference that was actually well publicized, and people were, which was also very controversial. So 25 journalists attended this conference. But our conference, 134. And when they were asked, why did you go to this conference in big numbers like that? People were coming with by trains from other cities, not from Copenhagen. They said, anyone who receives the invitation that we received will definitely go to the conference. Because if this is the invitation, what about the event itself? Each one of them received a 3-dimensional box like that, saying you are invited. And then when you open it, you find a beautiful word saying the peoples of the East and the West are the branches of the same tree, and something beautiful, and then it is signed by a Danish name, someone who is unknown to them, Knud Holmboe, and a website, www.knud-holmboe.com. And we did this website in Bridges Foundation so that they can go and see. And a chocolate, and on the chocolate it says 27th of March, Marriott, Copenhagen at 6 p.m. You pick up the chocolate to eat it, you find that the invitation is colorful and folded like that. Okay? Every keynote speaker, everything that will happen in the event is written in this. So they said, if this is the invitation, what about the conference? These are the marketing strategies that we did. I went to Copenhagen 5 times before this conference just to walk on the streets and ask and read about the history of Denmark. One of the things I found in Denmark is that it's very poor in its history. They have no one to be proud of except one person, Andersen, who wrote the Little Mermaid books and stuff like that. He died 200 years ago, and every year they do a big moulid for him, like Moulid al-Nabi that we do here. Something huge. They have no one else to be proud of him. So he introduced to them someone else to be proud of. That was the media coverage of the
conference, and it was quite good, alhamdulillah. And we introduced some Knut Holmboe. This is Knut Holmboe, the first Danish convert. Do you know what was his profession? He was a journalist. He became Muslim in the beginning of the 20th century. And do you know how he died? He was 29 years old when he was murdered by Mussolini for refusing to retract what he published. So he became a martyr of freedom of speech. Can you imagine this? Wallahi, it's a sign from Allah. It's a sign from Allah. Do you remember the movie Omar al-Mukhtar? When Anthony Quinn was hanged and then the glasses fell from his hands. So a boy called Ali, he went and he grabbed the glasses. This Ali is Knut Holmboe. Ali Knut Holmboe. He was 29 years old. He wasn't that young. He's not Gaddafi. This is Ali Knut Holmboe, who was like a son for Omar al-Mukhtar. This man, he was a monk in France, and then he embraced Islam, and then he wanted to do Hajj, so he bought a Chevrolet in Morocco and he went with it, trying to go to Hajj with it. So he wrote a beautiful book explaining his beautiful adventure. It's called Ørkenbrenner in Danish, which is the deserts are burning in Arabic, or Desert Encounter, the name of the book in English. And he wrote about his adventure, and most of the book was in the Libyan desert, where he interacted with both the Mujahideen led by Omar al-Mukhtar and the Italian occupation. And he had his camera with him and he started taking pictures. This is a true picture for Sheikh Omar al-Mukhtar and for Graziani in the peace talks in 1929. So he was like the photographer of Omar al-Mukhtar. This picture proves that he joined the resistance and he used to go on in the raids on the Italians. This is one of the pictures that were very humiliating for Mussolini, and that's why he was killed. Those are two Italian officers in the imprisonment camps of Omar al-Mukhtar. So Mussolini didn't want the Italians in Italy to know that Italian officers are taken prisoners also by the Mujahideen. And those are the executions. He said, I used to witness 30 executions in Benghazi every day. Another Arab victim, orphans of the Mujahideen. And this is the last picture taken for Knut Holmboe 3 days before his murder. I showed those Danish journalists after they became very proud of this great man, Danish hero, the first Danish hero in the history. I showed them why he became a hero, inspired by two things. We need to establish common grounds. The beautiful Danish culture that doesn't compromise freedom of speech, and the hadith of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ that said freedom of speech has no limits. One of them is, إن رأيت أمتي تهاب أن تقول للظالم يا ظالم فقد تودع منها. If the time comes that you see my ummah afraid of telling a tyrant that he's a tyrant, then there is no hope in them. And the second one is the one that I told you, the best of martyrs is someone who got murdered by a tyrant for criticizing his tyranny. But Prophet Muhammad showed us that freedom of speech has no limits but has a direction, always against a tyrant and an oppressor, to relieve the oppressed. So, Danish journalists, you've been doing a good job supporting the Palestinian cause. You moved the streets of Denmark against George Bush last year when he came to visit Denmark. Keep doing the good job, but make sure that you're always in the right direction, don't go in the opposite direction. Alhamdulillah, we united the hearts at that day, and 55% of them said our respect to Prophet Muhammad increased after the presentation, and 20 of them came to visit us in Egypt 3 months ago, when we opened everything and we spoke frankly. And we showed them what Larsen, the atheist Swedish writer, wrote, and what Christopher Bolin, the practicing Christian American, wrote, proving that it was a conspiracy. The Danes and the Norwegians are the only two supporters in the European Union for the Palestinians. A month ago, when Ismail Haniyeh formed the government for the second time, Hamas, the only one who went to congratulate him from Europe is the Norwegian minister. And he showed them that that was a conspiracy. Flemming Rose, the editor of Jyllands-Posten, who published the cartoons, is the colleague of Daniel Pipes. Those of you who don't know, Daniel Pipes is the biggest Zionist in the world in Philadelphia, and he wrote on his website that Ariel Sharon deserves to be tortured and to be in coma like that because he was too soft with the Palestinians. So that was his colleague, and he is the one who is he is the supervisor of his Danish page. He translates all his articles. This is here Dr. Ali Jum'a, the Mufti of Egypt. So we held a dialogue between the Danish journalists and the Muslim journalists from different news agencies, and we came to a good resolution. Let us make the Muslims and the Danes know about this great man. This great man that both of us are proud of. He's Muslim like us, and he's Danish like them. So we printed the book in Arabic for the Muslims in the Arab world, and they printed the book in Danish. This book, when I was in Denmark, I tried to find it. I found only 2 copies in the Royal Library, and they are always out. You need to put your name in a big line, and after 1.5 years, you may get the book for a week or something. Now it's published again, and it's not an Islamic organization in Denmark that is publishing it. No, Danish people are publishing it, and this is what we want them to do. Alhamdulillah. These are some gratitude letters from the American University in Washington, D.C., the Department of Defense, Maryland University, some churches, some schools. Now, Tadrib al-Dua. We train dua. We train Muslims on how to present Islam to their fellow non-Muslims. Until today, we trained 3,770 trainees in the USA, in the UK, in Malaysia, Germany, Egypt, Kuwait, Denmark, Uganda. We trained some people in South Africa also in a quick training workshop last week. And inshallah, next month in Bahrain and Canada, Finland and Sweden. We have 4 levels of workshop. The first one is how to present Islam, presenting Islam, which is presentation skills and public speaking skills. This is normally takes 3 days. And how to apply those skills on presenting Islamic beliefs and concepts to non-Muslims. You can give an excellent presentation and then you face a question about suicide bombing, about Prophet Muhammad killing 700 Jews or marrying a 9-year-old girl. So you need to know how to handle these difficult questions and refute misconceptions in an objective way, in a positive way, in a convincing and logical and spiritual way even. Which means you even use this misconception to do da'wah. Not only stop at the point of defending your religion, but even attack back. Practical training, where every trainee practices and gives presentation, and then he receives an evaluation of his performance, and then he goes, he practices again, and then he comes back and he presents again. Here they can start working with non-Muslims, but if we are there in one of their presentations and they were good enough, alhamdulillah, they can become certified presenters of Islam. Here we have 3,770 people entering. Here we have 10 people only. But here we have 70 to 80 people between level 3 and level 4 trying to be, inshallah, certified presenters. Very soon, inshallah, we will have in French language also, because until today we have in English, in Portuguese, in Chinese, in German language, but we don't have yet in French and some other languages. If you take the trainers, you can become also a trainer in the International Institute for Training Presenters. Those are some of the pictures. This is in Kuwait. We trained the dua of the IPCI, which is the one of the main organizations of da'wah in Kuwait. That was in... This is in Denmark. Before the cartoon, we trained 25 people on how to present Islam. When you see people sitting in groups like that, this means this is level number 2, where people are solving the misconceptions, because in the first day I teach keys of refuting misconceptions, and then the rest of the days I just play the devil advocate. I attack them, I provoke them so much. I have here, actually, Sister Nasima, you attended my workshops several times actually with Islam Online, and then, okay. So I was very provocative, right? I provoke them a lot, and then they take like 5 to 10 minutes after every misconception to deliberate and to discuss it and to see what will be their approach, and then they can start speaking, and then we discuss their approach. This is in Malaysia. This is in Egypt, where Sister Nasima also attended. See the numbers, mashallah. And the women in Egypt, subhanallah, are like 80% of our workshop. Men are like 20%, and we are about to give discount for men to come to our workshops. Yeah, in Egypt, see the numbers here? Men, they don't take half the room, they take just 25% of the room, and then the sisters start to sit all over the place. This is Marwa, right? Islam Online. Okay. Here, also more workshops. You see here, groups means this is level number 2. And it's very serious. They really work hard on it, and they, inshallah, benefit a lot. In Uganda, last month. This is here, when you see just one person like that, this is in Bridges Foundation, where they practice, and then this is level number 3, which is the practical training one. Okay, just some pictures. Let me tell you something. Some of the people here were apostates. And then they became Muslims, and now they are dua, alhamdulillah. And we have very good turnout, alhamdulillah. So, those are our volunteers and our employees. Now, one of the things that we did, alhamdulillah, is that we are now turning our presentations into documentaries. So the first one is out, alhamdulillah. We are now publishing it. Khalas, we finished it. Inshallah, it will be out in English language only, but we are now in the process of translating it to all languages, including Hebrew language, Zulu language, and not all main languages, and Hausa, Swahili, and all these languages, alhamdulillah. This is the documentary, okay? You either play it all, or play here languages, like that. If you click on languages, you can then choose the language subtitle that you need. If you click on chapters, because the documentary is long, it is 1 hour and 14 minutes. You can choose the chapter to watch. This one is an introduction and the meaning of Islam. Does God exist is an 8-minute chapter that deals with the atheist mind, and alhamdulillah, Allah guided some apostates back to Islam after watching this Does God Exist chapter, which is actually quoting from the Quran and what matches it from the words of philosophers, Aristotle, Immanuel Kant, René Descartes, and also biologists, and so on. In this chapter, we are showing them some Islamic concepts. They have the original sin, we are introducing to them the original goodness. And free choice, equality, and so on. Islamic beliefs. And then we have also other chapters about Islam and science and pillars of Islam. I can show you a small clip from one of those chapters, for example. This movie was done in Hollywood, most of it in Hollywood. Yes, and the narration in Washington D.C. and the rest of the world in
judgment and say, "Oh God, you cannot punish me because you are the one who created me bad by nature."
One of the wonderful things about Islam is that we do not believe that human beings were born into some type of original sin or curse. We believe, in fact, that the Creator of all, God Almighty, has written on the hard drive of every human being the ability to know Him, to draw closer to Him, and to worship and serve Him. Thus, instead of original sin, we as Muslims believe in original goodness.
Muslims believe that people are born without any inherited sin. Although we believe that we are from Adam, and Adam is from earth, we also believe that if someone has committed a sin or a crime, he he should carry the sin on his own shoulder on the day of judgment, not on the shoulder of his sons or his grandsons or his great-great-grandsons.
Muslims believe that faith is an action of the heart, and that no one can force anyone to change his faith. The Quran addresses this in chapter 2. Let there be no compulsion in religion.
The reason why this verse was revealed to Prophet Muhammad is that before Islam there were some ignorant people who hated to have newborn baby girls, and some wanted their boys to live. So they made oaths to God that if they were granted boys, they would make them Jews. So there happened to be that there were a generation of idolaters whose sons were Jewish. Some of those parents became Muslims, and then they started to put pressure on the Jewish youth to convert them from Judaism to Islam. The Jewish youth were defended in the Quran with this verse: let there be no compulsion in religion. Leave them alone. Why force anyone to become Muslim? No one can force anyone to become Muslim simply because Islam is an action of the heart.
Muslims believe that there is no supremacy based on color, race, or sex. God says in the Quran, surely the most honored of you in the sight of God are the most righteous of you. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, said that all people in the sight of God are as equal as the teeth of a comb. There is no privilege for an Arab over a non-Arab, nor for a white over a black, except according to their level of piety. So it is piety and righteousness, not racism. This means that Muslims believe that God Almighty never chose the Arabs to be the chosen people, or the Jews, or any people because of their race.
This is the quality of our documentary. Alhamdulillah, it costed us about $130,000 until today. So hopefully people will not be copying it. We want people to buy it, or we will bankrupt. We will find bankruptcy. Anyway, now I am open to any of your questions, but I think I hope you got the message. This is what we can do to you here, for you here in South Africa. We can train your people, but I wish that you don't give me a weekend to train people. No, we need to take the dua who are very committed and they are very serious in a retreat for a week somewhere, and then we give them the first 2 levels and even start with them the practical level, because I need for each one 1 hour. Half an hour to present, take his evaluation, to evaluate him, and then he goes, he practices at least for a day, and then he comes back to present again. جزاكم الله خيرا and بارك الله فيكم. Let me take any question. Usually sisters don't ask in South Africa. I don't know why. In Durban, in Cape Town, they always ask, but in Durban, mashallah, they don't ask. Any question?
Who are the type of people who qualify for this course?
Okay.
People who are full-time in Dawah, or people who are...
Okay. Let me tell you something, sir. Usually, any Muslim is entitled to take our courses. It helps. Even apostates, when they take it, they become Muslims back. Those who already are not learning da'wah, but they are already having misconceptions in their mind, and they are too shy to say they take our courses, it strengthens their religion. But what we are focusing on here is merely to train youth who will be able to go and give da'wah, maybe put like stalls and around in the malls during the World Cup, and we will train them how to talk about Islam. They should be quite knowledgeable, not very knowledgeable about Islam. We don't need. They are not going to issue fatwas. Okay, but they should at least have some knowledge about the seerah of the Prophet and so on. But that's why I'm telling you, we have 2.5 years. So we need to start, because when we start, I can know that maybe the youth here in South Africa, they need more knowledge about the seerah. But they are okay on this, but they're not okay on that's why I'm telling you, we shouldn't wake up at the end of 2009 and remember, ooh, we didn't do the workshop yet. No, we should start now. We should really plan well for our religion. Let me tell you actually how they plan for us. I have here, I was in Uganda, and they have here, they had a strategic planning workshop for the missionaries in Africa, in the middle of Africa. Here it says the unfinished task. It's all planning against Muslims, and also among the people that they are targeting here. In the last page they are saying that they are also targeting those people, inshallah, the 51.7 million in Turkey, 19.3 million Awadi of India, I don't know what's Awadi, but a woman wearing hijab, Madura of Indonesia, 13.6, and the Badawi of Saudi Arabia, 8.1 million. So they are targeting the Saudis. Can you imagine that we go to do Hajj in a Christian country? So they are planning for us, planning, but sometimes we are very happy, alhamdulillah, we are in the light and they are in the dark. But they are awake in the dark and we are sleeping in the light. So we need to wake up early and start planning from now and do the right thing. I believe any number of youth that you can give me will be okay in the first and the second workshop, but we will be selective in the third one, because the third one is a practical training. I cannot spend 1 hour with each one of them if there are 500. So we will select like 70 to 80 among them, inshallah.
Our projects, especially when we're trying to invite the non-Muslim to your talk, we have a problem of their attendance because of the Christians, they've been warned by the church not to go. How do you attract these people to your audience?
Okay, one of the things, I have to be very controversial. The problem here is when Muslims announce, what Sheikh Ahmed Didat's presentations were attended because it was controversial. Is the Quran the Word of God? Is the Bible the Word of God? Controversial. But sometimes we as Muslims deliver the message in the title or in the invitation by saying, he was Muhammad, the Prophet of Allah. Khalas, why do I need to come? If you are giving me the message, but tell me, was he really a prophet? And tell me it's a discussion and that I can be allowed to talk. So give something controversial a little bit. Also what we are thinking of, because I was with Sheikh Jamal Badawi last week. I met him in Heathrow Airport on his way to Sarajevo, and I was coming here. And I told him, Sheikh, this is what we did in Uganda. And I spent the whole week with Unitarians in London, and I spent it in the Dr. Williams Library. It's very interesting to know about those people. So we are thinking about maybe bringing Unitarians or announcing for joint presentations with Unitarians and stuff like that, so that maybe we can attract more people from different denominations. What happened in Cape Town when I talked about Unitarians, and I said, actually what we believe in and what I showed you about that there is no God except one, Allah, and that Muhammad is a messenger of Allah, and that Jesus is a messenger, he is not a son of God, and that we don't believe in the Trinity. These are not only the beliefs of Muslims. Some Christians called the Unitarians, they believe like that. So one of those missionaries said, why are you calling them Christians? They are a cult. Takfiri, huh? Those are kuffar. Say, wait a minute. They call themselves Christians. You don't have the right to call them non-Christians. You don't have the right. So you see here, people will be coming if we announce something maybe with Unitarians. Of course, Unitarians today are like old Unitarians. Now they have, it's difficult to stay for 2,000 years without revelation, without a book. But anyway, that's a new approach. And Sheikh Jamal Badawi said, I agree. Start inviting Unitarians to your presentations. Give them the chance to talk also. Maybe, anyway, we need to plan. I cannot give answers now. If we decide that we will do work we will do da'wah work in 2010 World Cup, so we need to start from now having a committee, nationwide committee, and we start the planning, to plan everything. And then we start training and so on. But one of the things that is good always in a workshop is that if those trainees attend a presentation for the public first, so that they get an idea of what are they really going to be trained to do. Okay?
Sure. How long is your training program? How much time does it take to train a guy?
Okay. We said the first workshop takes 3 days, but I mean 4 hours every day. If we go in a retreat, we can get more than that, like 3 hours in the morning and 3 hours in the evening. It's not good to take more than this. So we can say that the first workshop can be finished in 2 days. The second workshop can also be finished in 2 to 3 more days. And then we can, for 2 days, take the practical training one, which is, for each one, we will need 1 hour.
You mentioned you've trained about 3,300 people.
Yes.
How many presentations do they do?
First 2 workshops, the theoretical part, 3,770. Not all of them, of course, became du'a. As I told you, some of them were even apostates who came to watch and see what's happening. And some of them are people who had misconceptions in their minds. Let me tell you something. In Egypt alone, we trained 1,000 tourist guides. And about 300 people who are employed in petroleum companies and international companies. So they have co-workers among non-Muslims, non-Muslim co-workers. So those 3,770 that took the first 2 presentations, I can tell you now the people who are really very committed and they are really giving presentations are those who took the practical training. And they are more than 150 maybe. The third level. Among them 10 became certified presenters. And about 70 to 80 are really struggling. And about maybe 60 they failed to pass the practical training. If they fail, we tell them, you failed. We give them 3 chances. But if they fail, khalas, they failed. The cost for the workshop. In rands, I don't know. We will see this, inshallah, but it differs, where are we giving the workshops? Let me tell you something. We give the workshop for 275 Egyptian pounds, which is like 200 rands in Egypt. And in the Gulf, we charge $5,000 per workshop, not per person. Okay? So there are organizations who do the organization work. They give us the money, and then they charge people, or they don't charge. It's up to them. Okay? And in the Gulf, they don't need to charge people. Otherwhere in the other places in the world, we charge also 5,000 per workshop, and we waive it at the end when they tell us, actually, we don't have money. Okay, just sponsor our ticket and our hotel. Fine, okay. And then we never took money from anywhere in the world except from Kuwait and in Egypt. Everywhere else is for free.
I just supported it.
Workshops support us. Actually, alhamdulillah, we trained the imams of Kuwait, of Awqaf. So this helped a lot. And we trained more than 1,600 people in Egypt. And even though it's only 200 rands, but that was, alhamdulillah, this was a good turnout. But also, our running costs are high. Those who maybe came to our office can tell you about our office. It's a very beautiful one, fancy one, wide and big, and it's something that you like to go there, or you like to take non-Muslims with you to see it. Okay? And also our salaries are high. So we have high caliber people. So for example, as you see, the executive manager, he became the imam of Finsbury Park Mosque. Very high caliber people. The one who replaced him, he has ijazah in 7 dialects of 7 narrations of the Quran. So we have very high caliber people who are working with us. As you see, the type of work that we do, we have designers working full time with us, by the way.
If you see the backgrounds of our presentations, we have designers who are working for us. One person full-time and maybe two persons also who are part-time. So we have high running costs. So make dua for us. We are really depending on Allah and then on this documentary that it will bring us some money, inshallah. We take a sister now.
Do you research your community before you present your courses there? Because sometimes you find that the challenges du'at face in different areas are different all over the world.
Not maybe the da'wah course, not the da'wah workshops. Maybe I learn it from the Muslims when I go. But when there's a problem somewhere, like the Danish cartoon crisis and these issues, we take our time in studying Uganda. In Uganda, because I knew that in Uganda there's a crisis. Most of the da'wah was supported by the Muslim organizations in the Gulf. Many of them were shut down and many of them were strangled. Like Al-Harari, it was shut down completely. So what happened that we received some SOS messages from Uganda, come and help us. So we went to explore and we saw what's happening. And then I started reading about Uganda. We have people who are researching the history of Uganda. We found really problems that the du'a there are presenting Islam to the people that if you become Muslim, you have to circumcise. It's not how you present Islam to people. Okay, yes, it's recommended to be circumcision in Islam, but you can't go and tell this. So we started doing our, alhamdulillah, homework about Uganda, and alhamdulillah, it was a success. I can show you pictures here on my laptop that I have it at my, because after my presentation in the soccer stadium, I took the dua for 6 days, giving them a very intensive workshop. At the last day before I depart Kampala, the non-Muslims started to put huge billboards everywhere, bringing Benny Hill from the United States to Uganda in the stadium. And his show, his presentation was 5 days ago, and I received a report from our dua who attended. Those people were spending millions, big billboards, buses that are bringing people, and of course he was airing his commercials on TV and radio. If you have any problem, if you have any disability, come to our show, we will save you, we will show you the miracles of Jesus and stuff like that. So we are going back inshallah to Uganda again, but alhamdulillah, this is what we do. We research really the community first.
I need to know what inspired you, particularly coming from a university background, number one. Number two, how did you mobilize yourself to get so much work done in such a short time? And,
okay.
And I know it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala,
yes.
but I think it's also the fact that I work in the field of now in this country, in this part of South Africa. But the work you seem to be doing is tremendous, and it's but you are relatively very young organization. You just come into a couple of years ago. How do you manage to do so much?
Okay, alhamdulillah. Let me tell you something. One of the things that you don't know, that I am one of the survivors of 9/11. I was the director of WAMI, and I was representing them in the annual convention held for NGOs in the United Nations in Manhattan, New York, on the 10th, 11th, and the 12th of September. So I was there. And one of the things is, because I was new to the States, and I didn't go to New York before that, maybe except twice, and it was very quick visits. So I bought this ticket, 9 visits. You know, you buy a sightseeing tour. In New York, they take you to 9 places. Among those places is the World Trade Center. But you do this on 2 days. So I did 4 places in the first day, and I was supposed to make 5 also visits in the next day, which is the 11th of September. And I said, let me go to the World Trade Center, and from there go to the United Nations, and then do the rest of the visits. So I was supposed to go at about 8:30 in the morning to the World Trade Center. And I couldn't stop a taxi, a cab, and I was so frustrated, yes, subhanAllah, no cabs are stopping today for me. So I said, well, the time is running, yeah, so let me go to the UN and then go to the World Trade Center. So I went to the UN, but after I went out, there was no World Trade Center.
to go to. Yes, and I have the ticket, and I tried to return it back, but anyway, I said I went and there is no buildings there. But anyway, that was one of the things actually that moved me. That after we returned from the UN, because they evacuated the building, we went to our hotel, and there were some other guys, you know, who are with me representing other organizations, and Dr. Wahibi and so on, and they were hungry at 6 p.m. and you dial 0, no one answers your phone in the hotel. Completely chaos. So I went at 6 p.m. All of them, they have long beards, and I'm the only one who have a very short beard like that, and they were criticizing me for not, But anyway, it worked, alhamdulillah, because I was the only one who was able to walk in the streets of Manhattan at that day. And I bought something to eat for them, and I told them, look, guys, we are in Broadway area, where a lot of theaters and nightclubs. I said, the Americans are living their life normally. I said, come on. I said, I swear to God, the nightclubs are open. I hear the music banging inside, and the people are coming in and out. I said, get out of here. Anyway, eating while watching TV, on the news, Rudy Giuliani, who was the mayor of New York, he appeared and he said, it's time for all the nightclubs to be closed and theaters and cinemas. It was really opened. After 2 days, I was able to reach Washington, D.C., where I live. And there I found another phenomenon. Non-Muslim women wearing hijab coming to the mosques and saying, we will escort your women to the malls. So that the fanatics who will be attacking Muslim women should know that if they attack Muslim women, they are maybe attacking non-Muslim women. We will wear like you. SubhanAllah, the Americans are supporting us a lot. Within a month, I saw the same supporters who are supporting us, sorry Yani to say so, spitting at us. So I said, then it's not 9/11. Because after 9/11, they were supportive. 1 month after 9/11, they are not supporting. What happened? There is poison that was fed to them in the media. And this month, if you sit in front of any TV channel in America for 1 hour, you will see the Taliban shooting this Muslim woman in her head, and she falls dead like that 5 to 6 times in 1 hour. Before the episode and after the episode, and during the commercials, and during the break. What is this? And then I was appointed the imam of the American university, where every group of students from any religion, they can choose their own chaplain. So they chose me as the Muslim chaplain. They wrote this to the American university, and that was a volunteer job. At this time, what happened, I remember, is that Prophet Muhammad was attacked harshly. On the pages of the Washington Post, they published what one of the crazy evangelist bashers of Islam said about him, and he called him pedophile. So I wrote back to the Post. Nothing was published. So I made a khutbah in the university, and the students and the professors, even 6 professors are Muslims in this university, they signed a petition to the Washington Post asking them, please publish the answer of our imam. Nothing was published, and I still have on my laptop here the email that I received from your cousin, who is the editor of this page in the Washington Post, telling us why he will not publish. Your cousin is saying that if someone calls your mother a cow, do you prove to him scientifically that she's not a cow? No, you just punch him in the nose or leave him. So on our behalf, he decided to leave him. So at this point, I realized that it's becoming harder and harder for the Muslims. And at this point, WAMI appointed me as the director of their offices. Okay? And then at this time, I was still doing da'wah work, but not really fully dedicated to da'wah work. So, and since that time, I'm doing all, this is what I do. I sleep 4 hours or 3 hours every day. This is good enough. Some people sleep 8 hours. 1/3 of their life. So people will live 60 years, will come on the day of judgment, find 20 years asleep. How are they going to be accountable for this? SubhanAllah. So it's that's what I learned from my Sheikh, like Sheikh Jamal Badawi and Dr. Yusuf Qaradawi and those people. Alhamdulillah. Make dua for me. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في الأولين وصلي وسلم على سيدنا محمد في الآخرين وصلي وسلم على سيدنا محمد في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين. اللهم اهدنا واهد بنا واجعلنا سببا وسبيلا لمن اهتدى. افتح بيننا وبين قومنا بالحق وأنت خير الفاتحين. افتح علينا بركات من السماء وأبعد عنا الحرام والربا. باعد بيننا وبين الحرام والربا كما باعدت بين المشرق والمغرب. اللهم إنا نسألك حبك وحب من يحبك وحب كل عمل يقربنا إلى حبك. اللهم إنا نسألك يا مولانا قبل الموت توبة وهداية وعند الموت روحا وراحة وبعد الموت إكراما ومغفرة ونعيما. والله, we ask us your love and the love of whom you love and the love of every deed that gets us closer to your love. Oh Allah, we seek refuge with you from cowardice and miserliness, from anxiety and sorrow, from disbelief and poverty, from the tyranny of man and the burden of debts. Oh Allah, guide us and guide through us and use us to guide all the people in the world. Barakallahu fikum and jazakumullahu khair.
الرشيد الشهيد اللطيف الخبير. الله الله إلهي أنت الحليم العليم العظيم الرحيم السميع